You're listening to Sensitive Changemakers. This podcast is created for highly sensitive leaders and is designed to support you to embrace your strengths and gifts so you can feel more confident in your own mind and body and live a life with intention, purpose, and more importantly, joy. I'm your host, Kate Carter, a fellow HSP who has a BA Honours degree in education, is a fully trained and qualified professional coach and NLP practitioner, and has over 17 years of teaching and over 3 years of coaching experience supporting highly sensitive people. I believe that you can do anything you want to in this life, but that sometimes the path forward becomes muddy with self-doubt and fear of failure. It's my mission to help sensitive thought leaders peel away the self-doubt and stories holding them back, for them to see their own beauty and strength so they can increase self-confidence and self-trust through thought and embodiment work, and see their path clearly and move forward confidently, living their life with intention and purpose. I would love for you to come and join us. Hello and welcome to Sensitive Changemakers. As always, I hope this episode finds you well. The last week, it's been a little bit strange. I've struggled with sleep, which is unusual for me. Most of the time, I fall asleep really easily. My husband jokes that I love my bed, which I do. And I think that comes from a childhood of hating sleep, knowing that my anxiety was always worse at nighttime and not wanting to go to bed. And one of the benefits of feeling like I am now is that I do love my bed. So it is quite unusual at the moment that I am struggling a little bit with sleep. I don't know if it's my age, because perimenopause is definitely something very real, or if it's just something going on at the moment. But that has been obviously not ridiculously bad, but just something that's kept me off kilter a little bit this week. So if you've got any ideas for supporting sleep, please do let me know. I tend to fall asleep quite well and then wake up at about 1ish, 2ish and struggle to get back to sleep. The other night it was 1 and I couldn't get back to sleep until 5:30. So yes, any ideas, support, if you've been through it, do let me know and give me all your advice. I'm open to it, so please let me know. For those people that are going to mention magnesium, I have tried magnesium. I am trialing quite a few kind of different supplements at the moment to try and help. Magnesium I know is one of those that helps relax, but it doesn't really suit me at the moment. So yes, other than magnesium, please let me know. So what I would like to bring to today's podcast is hopefully quite a short one, but one with a tool, technique, tip that you can use to support you, especially if you are feeling a little bit stuck. So it can be used for worries, doubts, fears, and it can also be used if you're just feeling a little bit stuck in a rut. You're working towards something, you've got a dream, you've got a goal, but you're kind of just feeling like you're not gaining momentum, like you're not moving forward. And one of these ways is especially effective working with a coach, but it can also be used if you haven't got a coach or if you haven't got a therapist at the moment and you are looking to do a little bit of self-coaching, a little bit of digging on your own. This can be a really useful tool. And it's all to do with journaling. So if you follow me on social media, you would have heard me talking about this the last week just gone, because I share one tip, one tool on social media, on Instagram, that you can kind of implement to support you. And I'm going to extend what I said there into a more thorough and deeper conversation here. And it's all based around getting your ideas out of your head. Now, this is why therapy and coaching is so powerful, because just the process of getting the thoughts and ideas and worries and doubts and all of those things that float around in your head out of your head and out into the world can actually in itself just shed some light onto the situation. It can allow you to see different things. It can allow you, as you're verbalizing, for you to go, oh, that's what I meant, or that's how I saw it. It really does enable you to do that. And obviously, if you don't have somebody that you can talk to or share those ideas with, writing it down can be just as powerful. Now, obviously, it's super powerful if you've got somebody who can support you through the process. But like I said, it is effective on its own. And the way, I mean, there's lots of different ways that you can do this. You can just do some free writing. So actually just writing down your feelings. I've done that before. Like today this is what's going on in my head. These are the thoughts and feelings. You can be more specific with your writing. So you can do like a gratitude journal. Gratitude is huge. I can't pull up the studies at the moment because I can't remember. This is always the case, isn't it? But there are so many studies out there that are showing the effects of gratitude on what we see in our external world, on our mental well-being, on how we feel, etc. So gratitude can be really something specific. And what I encourage my clients to do, if this is something that you're interested in, is the smaller the better. People always think big things matter more than small things, but actually it's the little things that always matter. It's the little things that actually move the needle forward. It's those small shifts that you consistently take that actually lead to those big changes. So when you're thinking about gratitude, really get minute. Like I always, and I've said this before, get really happy when I see trees swaying, when the sun is shining on my face, when my daughter smiles at me. Just tiny little things can really support you there, just to create a new habit. So you're training your body and your brain to look for something different rather than defaulting to the patterns that you currently are living through. And that's the next thing that I want to come on to here, is giving ourselves a bit of a break in the fact that our brain is incredibly powerful. And it is so good at what it does that it has automated so many different things to make our lives easier, or it feels that that's the original purpose. However, sometimes, because our brain doesn't really have a kind of pros or cons, it doesn't look at things and go, oh, well, this is going to be really positive for Kate, so we'll make sure we bookmark this and do this every time. This is going to be quite negative for Kate, so we'll make sure that we don't do this, etc. It looks at things from a survival perspective. So this is going to keep Kate safe. We're going to make sure we do this. Oh, and she's done it again. So that must mean this is really important for her. So we're going to make sure it becomes automatic. And it will do everything it can to keep you safe, to keep you away from pain, to keep you away from hurt. And we live out these patterns without really consciously thinking of them. They are automated. They are things that we just do on a regular basis without thinking about it. An example of this is, I'm just trying to think of one that isn't wrapped up in survival. So if we just take driving, walking, the things that we do, breathing, the things that we do every single day that our body does for us on autopilot because it helps us out. If we had to think consciously of every step we took, every breath we took, every move we made, I feel like I'm singing the song by Police. Anyway, moving on. If we had to think about everything, we would be just overwhelmed, absolutely exhausted. It wouldn't be physically possible for us to think about every single thing. And so our brain supports us by automating those things. So those are kind of the day-to-day things. If we look at a little bit deeper and we look at how our environment impacts on that, we learn different things, especially in those formative years of 0 to 7. We learn who we are, how we fit into the world, what our place is, etc. And some of those things are based on how we're feeling at the time. It's got a lens of emotion through it. It's got a lens of fear, panic, worry, excitement. And obviously, because like our brain is defaulted to looking at how to support us to survive, to move away from pain, it bookmarks those really significant experiences that we had as things to never do again. So if we learn when we're young that, let me think of something. Anger is a big one, isn't it? I know as a mum, when you see your kids having a tantrum, it's really so easy to want to make them feel that that's wrong. And obviously, we need to teach them better ways of expressing anger because anger is a powerful, useful tool, but we need to support them in expressing their anger in different ways. I do this with my daughter quite often by she sometimes squeezes my hand or screams into a pillow. She's not at that age yet where she necessarily understands why the anger is there. She just knows she feels it. And I don't want her to feel guilty around feeling that emotion. It's a normal emotion that we all feel. But say you had a different experience. You were told that being angry, showing having a tantrum, um, stamping your feet was just wrong, and you were made to feel really bad about that. And by doing that, every time you were angry, every time you had a tantrum, you felt like you didn't belong. The people, and this isn't ever said explicitly, by the way, it's something that's very much underneath the surface. It's subconscious. You felt that you didn't belong in that unit, whether that be a family unit, a friend unit, a social unit, but you didn't feel like you belonged. And belonging is a survival technique. Your brain wants you to belong somewhere because the more you belong, the more likely you are to survive. And so it sees that as right. This caused us pain. When we were angry, we didn't feel like we belonged in that group. That meant that that was painful. That was hurtful. We didn't like that. Let's make sure that never happens again. So we suppress the anger. We get used to lashing out in different ways or expressing it in different ways that isn't necessarily a healthy way of expressing anger. I hope that kind of makes sense. And so over the years, we just cement that pattern. It becomes automated. Every time we feel anger, we maybe we find different ways. We may find food, food makes us feel better when we're angry. So that was our go-to. It might be causing arguments with a loved one. That was our way to do it. It might be running away and literally just putting your head in the sand. Whatever your response to that particular experience over time becomes cemented, it then becomes a pattern. And once it becomes a pattern, it becomes part of who you think you are. And once it becomes entrenched in your identity, it's really, really difficult to see the woods for the trees. And we've spoken about this before. Identity is incredibly powerful in both ways. It's incredibly powerful if you work with it and consciously choose who you are and what you stand for. But on the flip side, it's incredibly powerful if you're not aware of how identity plays into your emotions, your behaviors, your actions. And so if you are living on autopilot and you're just showing up in the same way because that's how your brain has automated things, because originally it was there to protect you and, shield you from pain and hurt, it makes absolute sense as to why you can't see how you're reacting to something. It makes absolute sense as to why, using the example with anger, it makes absolute sense as to why you can't see that you're not expressing anger in a healthy way, that actually turning to food or having arguments or literally burying your head in the sand and running away, in effect, isn't supporting you in the way that you want to live your life and how you actually want to be. And so one of the things that you can do here is work with writing, starting to actually get your thoughts out on paper, because one of the ways that this can help you is to distance yourself from your identity, from your thought patterns, from those automated responses, and kind of just see them for what they are. When they're in your head, when these automated thoughts and responses are in your head or in your behaviors, it's really difficult to see them for what they are, to see them with a clear vision, because you're in it. You're thinking it, or you're doing it, or you're acting it. Whereas when you write it down, you're consciously taking that step back. You're looking at what that means, the bigger picture. And as a result, you're distancing yourself. I hope that makes sense. You're putting yourself, if you like, in a container, like a microscope type thing, and you're actually looking at things in more detail. So you're taking it out and looking at it rather than being part of it. And this is the power of writing things down. So you can look at those things and think, oh, I didn't realize until I wrote that down, that's actually what was bothering me. Or I didn't realize that I do that every single time I feel angry. I didn't realize that. And what it allows you to do is actually create that awareness around what's happening. Now, I tend to do this when there is an issue or something that is constantly popping up in different situations. So this is why I said it's really good for fears, doubts, when you're feeling stuck, because it enables you to dig a little bit deeper and work with yourself here to understand what's really going on. And it is called a fear inventory. And what you do is you literally write down what is your problem at the moment. You're where are you feeling stuck? What is it that you're frustrated with? Like, what is the thing that keeps popping up time and time again? So I know a couple of years, say five, no, longer than that, 8, 9 years ago for me, it would have been about feeling anxious. Absolutely. Why am I still feeling anxious? Why am I worried about this? Why am I still feeling this way? It would have been that. 5 years ago, it would have been my business. Why can't I get clients? Why am I feeling stuck with this? Why am I constantly putting myself out there and I'm not getting any kind of traction? So that would have been something that kept popping up for me in those two instances. So I'm hoping that helps, that you can see it will be something that constantly pops up for you. And you just write that down. Okay, so that's what's going on for me at the moment. And then what you do from that is you start to think about what that means for you. Okay, so if I take, for example, I think the easier option here is to take me kind of 5 years ago and say, right, I'm so frustrated, I cannot get clients. And then you kind of take a step back and you think, okay, what does that mean? If I don't get clients and I'm not getting clients and I'm feeling frustrated, what does that mean? And you just keep going. So, for example, getting clients or not getting clients in this case meant that I didn't feel very good about myself. It meant that I felt a bit of a mistake, a problem, a failure. Okay, so if I make a if I feel a failure or it feels like I'm not good enough, what does that mean? And you keep going down until you can't get to a different thought where you literally keep saying the same thing over and over again. And this is a form of a root thought, if you like. It's the root thought. And this root thought will probably appear in your life in lots of different ways. So say, for example, your root fear or your root doubt or your root thought pattern, it may be something to do with, I just don't feel good enough and I don't like it. So that might be something that you just keep coming back to once you're doing this work. And actually what you find is that thought not only comes up, say, for example, in not getting clients in business, but it also comes up in your relationship, or it also comes up with family members, or it comes up in people pleasing techniques because you people please because underneath it all, you don't feel good enough. So even though you've used one example to dig a bit deeper, when you've got to the root thought, you can see actually it branches out to lots of different scenarios and situations in your life. And that is the power of writing, but it's also the power of that identity piece. Because if you've got a root thought like that, that is spreading and branching out to different areas of your life, that is very much linked to who you see yourself being. And so one of the things here is, how can you shift how you see yourself? How can you shift that identity? Because once you shift that identity, that's going to enable you then to have that knock-on effect, that ripple effect into other areas of your life. So there's a couple of things here. I'm just going to break it down just to kind of recap before I sign off. So writing stuff down, really incredibly useful, especially if you haven't got a coach or a therapist to work with at the moment. Fear inventory allows you to look at the frustrations or the fears or the doubts that you are currently experiencing. That one thing that just keeps popping up time and time again. It might be connected to frustration, anger, sadness, worry, but there's a strong emotion with it and it keeps popping up. And when you dig a little bit deeper and you go, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? You get to a root thought that when you actually create an awareness around, or you shine a light on it, you can see actually how that feeds into lots of different areas in your life. And once you have that awareness, you can see how closely and how guarded you keep that in regards to your identity, into who you think you are. So taking the example of, I just don't feel I'm good enough, that's an identity piece. That's saying, as a person, I don't feel good enough. And then the work there to do, once you've got that root thought, is, okay, like I said, how can I work on shifting that identity and seeing myself in a different light because you have, I truly believe you have everything you need within you. You are amazing as you are. And I speak from experience, but I also speak after serving so many different clients. Every single one of them is amazing. Every single one of them has the tools and the gifts and the strengths to do this because they have it within them. So very passionate about that. I'm even clenching my fist as I'm talking because that's something I truly believe in. But how can you shift the way you see yourself? Because I promise you, and I know I've spoken about this before, you may feel that there's lots of evidence at the moment as to why you are not good enough. For example, using that root thought that we talked about earlier, say it is you don't feel good enough. I know that you can find lots of evidence for why that might be the case for you. But I also know that if you shift your perspective and you shift how you see your external world and what goes on around you, you will see evidence and examples of actually where you are good enough, where you showed up, where you were just enough being you. And then that's where that power comes in. How can I shift it to focus more on seeing this, on seeing it when I do feel good enough, when I am good enough, when I'm just me and that's enough? And then that will help you to shift that identity piece. And it can happen very quickly, or it can happen over time, depending on how hard we are holding on to that original thought. So I hope that's really useful. And obviously, like I said, this gets even more, it becomes even more effective and more powerful if you are working it through with somebody, because they can reflect things that maybe you can't see, different words you're using, different languages, different facial expressions, etc. So if you are interested and you think, okay, I've got what I think I need to on my own, but I need a little bit more help in navigating through this, please do reach out. There's a connecting chat link in the show notes. Message me, email me, it's all there. I'm more than happy to talk this through to show you how working together can really establish a new pattern for you, a new automated habit where you see yourself in a different, more positive, enlightened way. And that will have an impact on all of those frustrations, worries, and fears that you currently feel. Okay, I'm going to sign off. I hope that one was super useful for you. If you've got any questions, please, as always, reach out. And I will be back next week with another episode. Sending you lots of love. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 50-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so much.